Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here alongside Lyle Leong Jr. And one of the people on this podcast was much more accurate on the Baylor score. Um, just read our names below and you can probably see who it was. He's not trying to tell you or anything, but he's Lyle. I'm RC. On today's podcast, we will discuss that Baylor win and also look ahead for the Red Raiders. 6 games left, halfway through the year. What can you expect from Texas Tech moving forward? Maybe not living up to those expectations that everybody had in terms of the 8-4s of the world, right, Lyle? But it seems like these past 6 quarters or so, the Red Raiders have really gotten on track. But before we get into that, I got to ask the people, Lyle, their one word to describe Texas Tech's win over Baylor. I've been using dominant the past 48 hours or so. Let us know down below on the pinned comment below your one word to describe Texas Tech's win over Baylor. Lyle, my guy, how you doing, man?
Oh man, blessed to be in your presence. Blessed to do another podcast, and like I said, man, I heard a lot of people on the space switching up what they were saying earlier. So people keep that same energy, because I heard people talking reckless, and then all of a sudden, same people back in that thing. Oh man, yeah, I love it. Yeah, so keep that same energy, man. Like I said, I think it's a process that it takes, and I think we're going through it. I think they have a chance, like I said, to still go 7-5, which is one game less than last year. Which is, I don't know. We had to go back and look, but I don't know when the last time we've had 2 7+ win seasons in a row. I'm sure it hasn't been anytime soon, but in the recent years. So, like I said, man, just remember, people, I love you. I appreciate y'all. Keep that same energy.
It's fair. It's fair. Um, the fans weren't the only thing that switched up, though. The Texas Tech offense switched up a little bit, too, in terms of things it's doing. But the real big switch up has been the defense, Lyle. I mean, shout out to Tim DeRuyter and crew. I'll put it on the bottom line here real quick. This defense over the last 6 quarters has given up 445 total yards, about 74 yards a quarter. That'll play, right? And then
Mhm.
14 total points allowed. Like, they've absolutely balled out. The craziest
Yeah.
stat that I talked about in the recap video yesterday was I don't know if you're looking at the stats, Lyle. This would be interesting. I hope you're not, almost for this sheer fact. Yards per carry. What do you think Baylor averaged against Texas Tech on Saturday? Because I was
Uh,
even surprised by it. Like, after I looked at the stats, I was like, oh, I thought it was a little higher than that, but it was
I
not.
probably would say 2.5,
Lower,
1.5,
lower,
point 2,
0.6.
point
They
6.
averaged 2 feet, 2 feet a rush. That's incredible. Like, that is incredible stuff by Tim DeRuyter's defense.
Nah, he's done phenomenal, and like I said, we knew he was, as the young kids say,
Him
and
a
he
thing.
does a
Yeah,
great job doing that. I think too, though, we also got to take into account Baylor sucks, and
I agree with that as well. 100%.
and Houston sucks as well. So I
Sure.
think I think that you know what I'm saying, that doesn't take away what he's done. That's a bad man. I've been saying that. Like, I really like all three phases. I think Coach Perry is the best in the country. I think Kit is one of the best in the country. I think DeRuyter is one of the best in the country. I think McGuire is one of the best in the country. So I think each unit has the ability to do things like we're seeing the last 2 weeks, but we got to take it to account. We haven't done that against good teams either. So
Yeah,
that doesn't take away what he's done. Still, these are teams that are in the Big 12. Anybody in the Big 12, and I shouldn't say Baylor sucks, but any team in the Big 12 is good. Any team in the Big 12 can beat anybody on any given day.
sure.
Like I said, they have good athletes, but I think we
Texas
have.
Tech is better than Baylor, though, is what you're saying. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I get what you're saying for sure.
I am, and so I just think too, like I said, we got to take into account too, like they've been balling, but we'll see once we go against, we got Kansas State coming up, we got Kansas still on the schedule, we got Texas still on the schedule, so we'll see once we go against. I kind of feel, I don't want to say superior athletes, but that are the team that's playing better right now than us.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see how we perform, especially this upcoming game I think this will be a big tell. I think Kansas State is super good. We always talk about it, and you know, shout out to you. You've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, they
But
disappointed me on Friday night though in Stillwater. What a shit show that was by Will Howard. What a
and
shit
I,
show.
and I think like I said, this is where I kind of think we see where we're at. You know, they're kind of struggling. We're
Mhm.
kind of struggling. I think there's like I said, I think we're pretty evenly matched teams. Like I said, I think besides besides Texas, honestly, I think we're evenly matched or close
I think Oklahoma's
with the team.
probably in their own range too, though, after what they
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Oklahoma, Texas, but I feel like any other game is a we can win or
Yeah.
we can lose. It just depends on our athletes. So, like I tell people all the time, it comes down to athletes too, and the players. And like I said, Taj Brooks is him, but um, but Taj also been performing, and some of them plays, everyone's like, we should give him the ball more. I mean, he's making people miss. He's doing it, and yes, that's the point of offense coordinator. But like I said, he's making plays too. Miles Price
Yeah.
has some catches. You know, like it's people that I haven't seen Miles Price have 10 catches. Um,
13 targets, Lyle.
that's what I'm
13
saying.
targets, bro. It's
And
wild.
that goes off of, you know, people gotta understand that too. That goes off of what the defense is giving you, what the quarterback once again, the
Hmm.
quarterback got 4 people that he's reading from, and so they got plays that are designed for different things for, and the quarterback's gotta make those decisions. So, that's credit to either, you know, B. Morton feeling comfortable with him or it just happened to be his night. Like I said, there's been games where I've got targeted not 13 times, but there's been
Yeah,
games I've been
that's
targeted maybe
wild.
7 times and there's been games where I haven't been targeted anytime. So I think it just depends on the flow of the game, what's going on, the feeling, and like I said, maybe he's emerging, but like I said, I think the receiving core that we have right now, it could be anybody on any given day because I don't think that there's someone that's way better than everyone else on our team. I think everyone's capable of making those plays. It's just who it's going to be.
Was that real quick? I'm curious to hear your opinion, and I'm sure you know the play I'm talking about. The OPI on Jerron Bradley. Was that pass interference to you?
Mhm.
It was. Why is it pass interference? Explain it to me like I'm five, because this is how I interpreted it. Okay. You get a grace period as a wide receiver to go out and whatever it is from the line of scrimmage. Correct me if I'm wrong, 5 yards, correct?
Correct.
Right? You can put your hands on and then you got to get off. Right? Obviously, Bradley did that. He simulated that he was in the run game and then he got off his block. Right? I think the thing that made it look a lot worse than it is that the Baylor defender slipped. But before that, even him slipping, was it pass interference to you?
Like I said, I think the key to it, and I tell everybody, like I'm the king of defensive pass interference. I'll say that 90% of the time. But whenever offenses do it too, I'll be the first to say it is. And I think for them, it's just the extension of his arm. Yes, he was trying to get him
Okay.
off, but you cannot extend. I tell receivers that all the time. And you got to be, you know, that's the point of. I see a lot of NFL dudes do this, man. If you get too far, like if you go back and watch any of my clips, I'm never too far away from the defender. And it's not because I don't want to. It's because if I'm an elbow length, what some people call the chicken, you can lean into them, you can get off. Anytime that you're away and you start extending that arm, no matter what, it's pass interference. So if you're
Okay.
blocking and you extend and he slips, whatever your arms are extended,
Okay.
that's pass interference. So I think, you know what I'm saying, he's got to just stay within. I think when he slipped, his arm fell because he was
Sure. Yeah.
pushing him, he slipped and then it made his arms go like that. And so, like I said, do I think that's a play that they probably could have let go? Yes. They probably could have let it just play out, but
Well, if it's
is it
pass interference, it's pass interference. I
but if
think
it
obviously call it both ways. Like I
yeah.
that's the interesting aspect of it. Because to me, when I look at it, and again, your word is gospel on this. I am more than a casual when it comes to watching wide receivers play compared to you, right? But I thought he did a good job of getting in between his pads, right? Like you're taught to do, right? In run blocking when you're a wide receiver. I thought he did a good job there. But that's interesting on the point where in replaying it in my mind, you're right. His arms did extend to get him off. And so, okay, that's probably fair. Because to me, I'm looking at it and it's a very clear what this is. It's a fake bubble screen. Bradley gets off. Okay, he's out on the sideline. He's going to make a play, right? Like that's clearly what it is. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, he goes in there, he simulates run blocking. And when I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, he got him between the pads, right? Like right exactly where you teach kids to go in there and just make a block, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, I really do think that the guy slipping, and again, it happens. That's what's going to happen. Good for the defender. He got the call that his team needed in that situation. Good for him.
Right.
I think that it exaggerated it because looking at it multiple times before, his arms weren't extended until the guy does slip. And
Mm-hmm.
so, okay, that's a good point. I didn't think about the arm aspect of it because to me, all I was looking at first, and really the whole entire play was, for me, what I thought they were calling the pass interference on was basically almost like a hold, almost in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was holding because I just didn't think that he got his hands right. And then I watched it again. I was like, that's textbook. That's where you want guys to get. You want to get basically your hands right under their pads and just go for it, you know? But
And I
it's
think
the extension. Okay.
And I think he's a bigger receiver at that. So when you're
It's
bigger than
true.
the corner, it looks worse on top of that. But like we talked about in the last podcast, I feel like he should be doing people like that every time. And then
Yeah.
it doesn't become as much because he's been manhandling people all game. But he doesn't do that in the block game. So the one time that he does it, he flings a 5'10"
He
cornerback
flings a me. He
or
flings a me.
yeah, of course the ref's gonna be like, because he ain't done that.
Yeah.
It's no hate, no shade, but he didn't block nobody like that on a regular bubble.
Sure.
I didn't see.
Okay.
So like I said, I think, if I had any advice for him, it's just to be him, be that guy, be that physical guy because like I said, for me, I was never bigger than any cornerback. For him, he's bigger than almost every cornerback. So I mean, I like that's the thing, like with Crab, man. I've seen Crab block people out of bounds. Like I seen Crab, I'm on the opposite side. I've seen Crab take people past me. I let go of my block just to watch it into the stands and throw them into the bench. You know what I'm saying? Like I would dream to do that. I went to go lift extra weights to try to do that. It didn't happen for me. But I think that he has that capability, bro, and it just adds fear. Like I've seen grown men with fear in their eyes when Crab get up there and say something. I'm not gonna repeat, but he'll say something crazy, and I just see another grown man with fear in his eyes, and I'm just like, Bradley, you have the ability to make grown men fear you, and it, if you go back and watch, a lot of people never got their hands on Crab. Why? Because you don't know if he's coming off running past you or if he's going to put his hands on you and throw you out of bounds. So I think if he can get that aspect of it, I think he will dominate the Big 12. Anybody from Texas corners to Oklahoma, I think that he's that talented, but he's got to figure out how to use his body for his, for his good. And so I think he does a good job, but I think he can elevate it if he wants
Sure.
to.
Yeah, no, he's so interesting to me because again, like talent wise, he's the third best wide receiver on this team, or the best wide receiver on this team. Like I don't think that that's a debate. Talent wise and physical tools wise, he's the best wide receiver on this team. The funny thing is I had a coach last week, Lyle, DM me, and then same coach DM me like well in the summertime, when they were going through, not technically fall camp, but leading up to it where they had a little bit of room to, do 7-on-7 and all that stuff. Right. And this same coach told me, he was like, man, Koy Aiken is the second best wide receiver on this team at worst. And I was like, at worst? I was like, what do we do? What do you mean? You got so many options here. But I think that it's telling in the sense of, again, Bradley, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver on this team. Right. But I don't know right now if his skill set really jives with what Texas Tech needs to do. And we can transition into this because this is kind of what I wanted to talk about from the identity aspect of it. And the title of the video, people saw it. Texas Tech has a clear identity moving forward, and it is running the football on offense, using the play action passing game, using the RPO, still letting Baron Morton fling it around the yard. But listen, Taj Brooks is that guy. Like there's no doubt about it. He's him, right? Like the offense will go as far as Taj Brooks basically takes it in a lot of the ways, right? And so we can start on the offensive side. And I got some Taj Brooks stats down at the bottom for the people down there. A lot of people have been asking me if he's the best running back in the Big 12. I don't know about all that. I'll say this. He's in the top 3. I don't know if he's 3, 2, or 1. You can decide that for yourself, but I promise you he's up there on that. Again, right now, Lyle, midway through the season, Taj Brooks is 5th in the country. 5th in the country, not the Big 12. fifth in the country in total rushing yards this season. And that's after having the first 3 games of the year only about 13 carries a game, right? So you think about where he could be, who cares at this point? This is where you're at. He's having a truly historic season, and he's the guy for the Texas Tech offense. And I'm interested to see some of these wrinkles, right? Because that's one thing I thought Kitley did a really good job of on Saturday, where, listen, Baylor's not dumb. Dave Aranda's a good football coach. They knew what the hell Texas Tech was going to do. They knew they were going to run the football a lot, right? Like they know that. And still, the offensive line goes out there, Lyle. And I mean, again, we bring them down in terms of the pass blocking, but there's no bringing them down to the run blocking. Those guys are working it out there in terms of run blocking. But I like the wrinkles that Kitley brought in from the sheer fact of this. Miles Price is the number one target now. And there's a reason for that. You have to think about kind of the circumstances you're in, right? Baron Morton, technically your second string quarterback, not to mention he's nursing a shoulder injury. Miles Price is more of that intermediate guy. You saw that deep pass to Miles Price. Didn't have enough on it if you're Baron. I think if he's healthy, that's a tutty all day, right? But you don't know how much that AC joint sprain is bothering him. I think Miles Price is probably the number one wide receiver for this team, but I like how he's using different guys in different areas now, in the sense of you're seeing Coy Aiken on the far right and then having him opposite of Jerron Bradley. You're flipping the field, and then you have Miles Price move left to right, move in motion, and using him as a lead blocker along with the tight end after one of those guys gets set, because, again, that weird double motion rule. But anyway, doesn't matter on that front. Like, I think you're seeing Kit creative with it, but don't get it twisted. Don't, in terms of that creativity. Taj Brooks is by far the centerpiece of this offense, and he will go, and this team offensively will go as Taj Brooks goes, right? Like, if Taj Brooks struggles, I don't know what we're going to see from the Texas Tech offense. And you mentioned it a little earlier, Lyle. This week is going to be that test against Kansas State. You go from facing the worst run defense in the Big 12 in Baylor to the best one in Kansas State, right? And so now you have to think about, okay, what's going on here in terms of some of those creative wrinkles. And I think you're going to see some of that action where people were excited about Kitley pushing it down the field in terms of the vertical passing game against Baylor, and I was too. But I think you're going to see a few more screens this week from the sheer standpoint of you're going to see a crap ton of people in the box. That means that you probably have a hat on a hat outside, make one guy miss, who knows what happens, right? That's kind of what I'm expecting. Still, Taj Brooks is going to get like 20 carries, right? There's no doubt about that, because you got to keep him honest and you got to give your best player the ball. But I do think that there's going to be a little bit more lateral passing game than vertical passing game against Kansas State, just because there will be so many guys in the box.
Yeah, and also, man, you said it best, man. It comes down to people performing. So Baylor knew that they were going to run the ball, and Baylor still didn't stop it. So that's what I want people to understand. When we get on here, and like I said, I'm always in defend Kit. When we get on here and talk about Kit, Dave Aranda is arguably one of the best defensive coaches in the country. He knew we were going to run the ball to this man. This man still ran for 100 yards. So y'all got to understand that about the game too, man. If people, kids and cats, make a huge impact, man, on the games and how everything works, man. So like I said, it comes down to, in my opinion, I think screens are going to be good, but I also think on those little bubble screens, a hat for a hat. So if there's two people out there, there's two defenders, the bubble screen and stuff like that, there's not someone to block it. So I think the way that's going to have to happen is they're going to have to win the one-on-one matchups. I think that's what it's going to come down to moving forward. Are our receivers better than your DBs? And I think that's what it's going to come down to. I think Taj is going to still, have a great game. I really do. I don't think he can be stopped completely. But I also think, like I said, man, it's just one of those things, like we talked about in the middle of the season, man. Like for Bradley, I don't, I got to go back and watch, but we say, I don't know if Miles Price is the number one receiver. I think he had a good game last week.
Just from a target standpoint, I think.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying from like last week, but what I'm saying, I had to go back and really watch film. Are they double teaming Bradley? What I'm saying, to get him those one-on-ones. And so I kind of want to go back and check it out and see. So like I said, man, there's going back and looking at our receiver. I think we had, especially I think it was my junior year. I think we had 6 different receivers who led in targets and stuff like that. So I think it varies. I think, you become the number one target when it happens consecutively and not like 2 games. I'm saying
Sure.
like every week they're finding ways. I don't know if they're necessarily finding ways to give him those matchups. More so than the defense is just it's his time. The defense is, what I'm saying? I just
Yeah,
feel
for
like when
sure.
you see Kid going out there and there's times like when Crab, like you knew what was gonna happen. Everybody's away, you knew it was set up for that man. So um I'm interested to see these receivers. Like I said, I think I told you from the get-go. To me, that's what it's coming down to is can those guys perform? I thought the tight ends did a great job. I thought
Yeah,
Kid
Baylor
did a
Cup
great
with two
job.
tutties.
Yeah, great job with those tight ends. We talked about at the beginning of the podcast. I think those are the best dudes out there, in my opinion. But I think too at the same time, those receivers at the end of the day are going to have to get open. It's a spread offense, spreading them out. Kit's going to still have to take his shots in order to make that defense scoop back. And I think that's going to be the difference. I don't think they're going to have to torch them, but they're going to have to get at least 1 or 2 deep balls to make those guys scoop back and think twice. And if we get from the get go and we're not able to complete balls and throw balls, I think it could get dicey for us. But
Yeah.
I know kids' creativity is going to be at display. But like I said, at the end of the day, people got to make plays, and I think it comes down to honestly, Tech made way more plays than Baylor, and that's why we beat them.
Yeah, no, I think, and we can move forward to K-State because, I mean, let's just face it. I mean, Texas Tech dominated in every facet of the game. There's no denying it. Um, they won in the trenches. They won in the secondary. Their linebackers were better. Every position group was basically better for Texas Tech than Baylor. And now you move on to face a team in Kansas State that, listen, I'll admit, I thought they were the second best team in the Big 12 coming into this season. They're not right now. Obviously, it's either Oklahoma or Texas, however you want to divvy that up. Kansas State might not even be third. That could be Kansas with what they're doing. The Fighting Lance Leopold's up there in Lawrence. There's a lot
He's
of
a
L's going on right there.
he's a
Not in their
great
loss
coach.
column, but there's got a lot of dubs, but a lot of L's in their names. And they're doing that without Jalen Daniels, right? So there's something to be safe for that. And then got to give credit to West Virginia too. Like I think, Lyle, this is probably an evenly matched game right now with the way Will Howard is playing. Let's pull up the schedule for Texas Tech as we can move a little bit forward here. So obviously you got K-State, you got BYU, TCU, and you know what? Let's change this up a little bit. Give people some more of that action, boss. And then we'll move this up a little bit right there. But I think when you look at it, like you got K-State, obviously. We know that this week in prime time. Well, tell me if I'm crazy from the sheer standpoint of this. I think I'm going to pick Texas Tech to win every home game for the rest of the year. You
Mm,
got K-State, TCU, UCF.
I got besides K State, I think they beat TCU. I think they beat UCF. Kansas State, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not.
I think I'm going to pick them just from the sheer standpoint of every time that we've seen Texas Tech play at home this year, it's vastly different, right? They play like a top 25 team, and now you could argue that they played like a top 25 team out in Waco as well. Um, I think for me, there's a combination of things, right? And we'll move back to you and I on the screen here real quick. I think when you look at how that schedule breaks down, right? Obviously, everybody knows it's the home away, home away, home away, home away, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I think now when you look at Texas Tech and what they're doing, and it kind of goes back to this identity, right? Like they are a run first team that is going to play really good defense, right? And I've talked about it on this podcast quite a bit, and you've agreed with me. I think that the best unit on this team is the secondary, right? And now you're getting to see them in full display because Tim DeRuyter and crew have made a conscious effort with that front seven. And what they've done is they've prioritized setting the edge and basically creating a funnel. If you go back and look at the second half against Houston and the whole entire game against Baylor, when Baylor or Houston got outside in terms of the tackles running the football, there was a big play there because Texas Tech didn't set the edge. But when Texas Tech sets the edge and basically funnels the run game right into Jalen Hutchins, Tony Bradford, all those guys, you get 0.6 yards a carry. That's what happens, right? And again, I don't think 0.6 yards a carry is going to happen every game because, listen, that's crazy. That's
Mm-hmm.
legitimately crazy. But I do think that there's a scenario now where it's like, okay, we're going to set the edge. And I think setting the edge also helps you in the pass rush game too, because now you can throw a couple of stunts in there in the middle. You can get guys like CJ Baskerville running straight down the A gap right at the quarterback's face. And it's like, all right, you got to make a decision now. And then if you roll out of the pocket, oh, by the way, there's Miles Cole with his pterodactyl type wingspan and Steve Litton, who had 3 sacks, right? So it's like it's a double-edged sword for opponents. And I think the Texas Tech defense, again, do I think that they're going to allow 74 yards every quarter? Probably not. There's going to be some big quarters, right? But this defense is really good. It's hitting its stride. And the crazy part is if you listen to Joey McGuire, Lyle, they've done this without their best defensive player in Jacob Rodriguez. He's called him that. That's not my words. That's him, right? And apparently Jacob Rodriguez has a really good chance to be back this week. So you could see this defense even elevate more. And now you're getting a little bit more confidence in the group that I thought was probably the worst one, which was the linebacker room. But now you're getting your leader back. And now you have guys in that room with valuable experience in games that they did well. That's a deadly combination for a defense that's really starting to hit its stride and is about to face some teams that, I mean, simple and plain, just haven't looked good offensively in Kansas State. And you get to play them at home, which is huge. And then you go out to Provo and BYU, but obviously one game at a time. I think it's absolutely huge that the Texas Tech defense had that kind of performance and now is going back home against, God, Will Howard just is shitting the bed for me, Lyle, right now. He is, my
I
God.
know that hurts you too.
I'm a Will Howard truther. I am, but yeah, man. I mean, I think Texas Tech defensively, that's one of the identities that they have. They're a run first team that still has creative passing schemes, but also is defense oriented, if that makes sense. And it's no coincidence too. I want to point this out before you get in here. It's no coincidence either. Texas Tech is a run first team and the defense is doing better. You're the guy that talked about it, right? When you were at Tech, it was score as fast as you possibly can. The defense will worry about it later, right? Now the defense is a little bit more rested, right? There's a little bit more depth here on the defense, and they're starting to play a little bit more. And now they're getting a little bit of rest during the game because, again, Texas Tech is running the football. There's something to be said for that. And it's working both ways, too. Like if Texas Tech was just running the football to run the football and not score points, okay, well, who cares? Like, obviously the defense needs to step up, but both are working in balance. And I think that that's a clear identity for Texas Tech moving into the back half of the schedule.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like I said, it goes hand in hand. We talked about it, man. And like I said, I think I know it just goes hand in hand in my opinion, man. We're getting some stops, we're scoring some touchdowns. Special teams has been good. I mean,
Yeah,
it just takes all 3 sides, and I think for the first time, I don't want to say the first time, but the last 2 games is actually all clicking together. And I think that's been the biggest thing. I think they made some adjustments with, running it, slowing it down a little bit because they have to. I'm pretty sure it's not what Kit wants to do, but he's also really good at what he does, so he understands what works. So, like I said, I think it just depends on, once again, I'll say this till I go blue in the face. It depends on if the kids show up, man. Like, do I think they have a good scheme? Yes. Do I think that some stuff could be better? Of course, every week, even in my own scheme, there's stuff that can be done better. But at the end of the day, we're getting the linebacker back. Does he show up and does he do a good job, or is he rusty and don't do a good job? And then we take a step back. So, like I said, it just depends. It comes down to these kids, man. How are they going to perform? How are they going to respond? How are they going to work together? I kind of think, in the terms of, and I know people are going to be like, well, you're over the top. Yeah, I might be. But I kind of think in the terms of like, when LeBron went with D Wade, like there's has to be where he had to take a step back to let him in. So there's people,
Sure.
How are they going to gel together? Is he going to come in? Someone's like, oh, I've been making plays since you've been gone, Jack. And I'm sure it's not like that, but you never know, man. Like I said, at the end of the day, these kids are playing for each other, playing for the University of Texas Tech, but they're also playing to get opportunity to go to that next level too. So I'm I'm anxious to see how they gel together and how everything's going to do. I think he makes them better. Absolutely. Absolutely better. But the question is, how are they going to gel together? How is he going to, because he comes back, does it change what we've been doing because he's back? Is he able to fit in what, so it's just all those
Yeah.
questions. For me, I'm anxious to see is how he goes about it. And like I said, he may fit in, it may be perfect, may have to do nothing at all. But like I said, everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. So I'm excited to see how his strengths play into what kind of Druters kind of developed this time and kind of found something that they've been successful with and continue to roll with, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that that's interesting too, because I think he could be on like a snap count. You know what I mean? I don't know if he'll come in right away and play whatever the full allotment of snaps is defensively, 50, 55, whatever it is. But you feel a lot more comfortable with him moving forward in the sense of, okay, we're getting this guy back, but we know that there's reinforcements necessary to not rush him back in if he's not, hey, it may take him a minute to get back into game action, right? Like this isn't a thing where some guys you can throw them back to the wolves right away, and they're okay. Others, it might take a game or two to bring them back and work them in and get them back in that groove. So I think that there's a lot of things there. And again, we'll hear from Joey McGuire in terms of if he'll play this week, but that's what he said last week. They're hoping to have him back, which would be really huge, especially in the game of keeping a spy on Will Howard, who's starting to run a little bit more for Kansas State. So that would
Mhm.
be really, really big for Texas Tech. But I mean, I like what I see from Ben Roberts. He led Texas Tech in tackles again. Malik Dingle, the two athlete star, the track guy and the linebacker for Texas Tech, looking good. There's just a lot of things that are going positive right now for the Texas Tech defense, and they've made a conscientious change, it looks like, over the past 6 quarters of play in terms of setting the edge and just funneling guys into the middle. And that's where our linebackers can go play. That's where the defensive line, in terms of those middle guys, whether it's obviously Tony Bradford, Jalen Hutchins, Quincy Ledet Jr., like whoever it is there, you've got multiple guys that are good at getting off their block and impacting the run game at a high level. Lyle, let's look at the Big 12 standings real quick. Or
Mm.
actually, let's look at Texas Tech's schedule real fast one more time. We had it up on the screen. Let's look at this. How many games do you think Texas Tech wins the rest of the year?
3.
You think 3?
Yes, sir.
So which games are you picking?
BYU, TCU, and UCF.
Okay. I think I'm probably going to pick Texas Tech at home every game that they have at home. Just because again, I think that they play really, really well at home. It's a night and day type deal, which is kind of crazy. Shout out to Texas Tech. I think they're doing a blackout.
Hey, that's my favorite game, bro.
There you go. Yeah, it's spooky season.
But
Um,
but I think too, like quarterbacks like Will Howard, I just don't think that he has 2 bad games in a row. Like I really don't, you
man,
know.
I don't either, but also at the same time, man, like he's let me down a little bit this year, Lyle.
But
He's let me
that
down.
was his worst game of the season, without a doubt, last week. I just
Yeah,
I,
Martin for Oklahoma State. Did you see his stat line?
yeah,
16 tackles, a
yeah.
pick, 2 forced fumbles, 3 tackles for loss. Dude went bananas
Hey,
for Oklahoma
get
State against
paid,
Case.
young man, get paid. That's what
Hey,
just happened.
that's I'm all about it. So you think that they actually win in Provo?
Yes.
Okay. I I think that that game's super interesting. I think that it's also one of those deals for me where I almost wonder if Wyoming, they remember that going into BYU. Obviously, BYU. By the way, how about Wyoming? Holy crap, they're really
I
good.
told y'all that though. I told y'all that
They're
on the
really
first.
good, dude.
I told y'all that a long time on the podcast when everybody was going on. Man, we can't even be. They are freaking good, and they played Texas to the very end.
Yeah,
They played
they
Texas in the fourth quarter.
beat Fresno State, number 24 Fresno State this past week.
Yes.
And Fresno State is really good. I think Wyoming, I haven't checked it. Are they ranked this week? They might be ranked this week.
I want to
If
say
not
I got it.
receiving votes at the very least. Anyway, Lyle, why do you think that Texas Tech is going to win just 3 games? Like, are you just the road matchups, and then why don't you think they're going to beat Kansas State this week?
Like I said, I just think when teams have really bad games,
Mhm.
I don't see many teams that have like back to back bad games unless you're a bad team. And I think
Sure.
Kansas State is a really good team. And I think that um, having a bad game, they're going to definitely come back and have a good game after Oklahoma State. To them, that's probably embarrassing. And I think that they're going to come back with some vengeance and kind of fix some stuff. I feel like they feel like this is a must win for them. And so that's why I feel like we're not going to beat Kansas State this week. Then I just feel like TCU is not that good this year. I feel like BYU is about to go on a streak. This is going to be their time where they're playing back-to-back teams. That's good. They got West Virginia this week. Then they're going to have to turn around and play another good team and another good team. So I don't know. I just don't think that they're built like that yet. Same with UCF. I don't think that they're accustomed to playing
Sure.
team after team after team. They in their conferences they play maybe one or two teams that are really good, and then they play some slaps along the way. So this is, I mean, from here on out, BYU's got a pretty tough schedule. UCF's got a pretty tough schedule, and so like I said, I think that it's just that first year into the Big 12. I think eventually they'll be able to handle that, but I tell people that all the time, and people is the biggest argument I have with people, and they get pissed off. But I'm just like, bro, you can't to me, you cannot play one ranked team and all the rest of your teams like Conference USA is like UTSA last year. They beat everybody and got ranked, and there was only one team in there with a winning record. So I'm just like, like when you get moved into a conference with a better athlete and back to back, man, it takes a toll on your team. So I think BYU is going to kind of feel the wrath this first year of them going back to back and going, for them, their flights are extremely long on top of that. So
Yeah.
I think that takes a toll. Like I said, from West Virginia, when I was at West Virginia traveling to Texas, like, bro, it was a lot. Time changes when you get back. We play at
Sure.
7, finishes at 11:30. That's really 12:30. You fly back home. So I just think, like I said, man, I think Kansas is just good. I think but Kansas State and Kansas, I do think we can win. I don't think we will, but I think we can. And then honestly, I just think Texas is better. I don't
Yeah.
think
I
we'll
mean,
beat Texas.
I
But
yeah, they
like
may
I
have
said,
lost to Oklahoma, but they're still a top two team in the
I
conference.
think we could win 4 games,
Sure.
possibly. Um, I think we can. No, I take the bet. I think we can win any game except for Texas. And it's
I
Texas,
think
so
I don't know if you can win at Kansas, um, especially if Jalen Daniels plays. I'm
I don't
also
know
really
though.
high on Kansas. Remember how I had Kansas State last year as my dark
Mm.
horse? I had Kansas as my dark horse this year. So um, I I don't know. I think it kind of depends. Really, do I think Texas Tech is vastly more talented or not as talented as Kansas? No. I just again, until I see it a second time in terms of Texas Tech actually doing something on the road that's positive, I'm not going to believe it. That's just kind of how I am.
But
That
I
being
think
said, oh, go ahead.
I just don't think like their sorry to cut you. I just don't think their stadium is like that though. Like I don't. Even if there's
Sure.
people in there like that's going to play there, like it's just not a vibe.
Well, it's a
It's
track
just
field. It's a track field that they build a football stadium in.
yeah, bro. You see the basketball stadium across the way, bro. You know they really don't care about folks on the football field. So I just think I just think it's like that vibe. Now if it's at OU or Oklahoma State, like if we played at Oklahoma State, I think that would be a trap game because Oklahoma State is
Sure.
hard to play in. Like there's certain places that are hard to play in. Kansas State, I know we play at home, but that ain't a hard place to play in my opinion. Kansas is not a hard place to play in. That I've gone that just gives that overall vibe. Like Texas Tech is a top 3 place. Like you said, at home we play better, but man, that's a top 3 place in my opinion in the Big 12 to play because our fans are ruthless. Like what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
they
But
are. Yeah,
I
they
just feel
are.
like Kansas, while we have a chance, it's just not it's not it.
Sure.
It's not it.
I think again though, like they're definitely changing that though. Got to give credit to Lance Leopold and what he's done up there.
Absolutely.
They've done a phenomenal job, and now they're starting to get a little bit of financial backing too to upgrade that stadium, which is much needed. I've seen it
Oh
one
yes.
time, and that was plenty enough for me. Um, but I think in its current state, I should say.
Yeah,
But I think for me, again, I think Texas Tech has a chance to go 3-3 to end the year, which would be big considering how bad they looked early on in terms of certain things that they had to change up, and they have changed them, right? I think there's also a scenario where they go 4-2, but if you ask me, okay, hey, what's the most likely outcome? 3-3 is probably the most likely outcome, right? Like, I think that you have a great chance to win every home game you play, right? Including this game, because it's a blackout in October in Lubbock. Spooky shit and crazy shit happens at the Jones, like in
true.
October, right? And by the way, that doesn't mean that it's just going to Texas Tech, right? Like that can mean like crazy things happen for the other team. I think everybody remembers that Oklahoma State game when Cliff's first year, and it was like 10 versus 15, and Oklahoma State just waxed. I mean, waxed Texas Tech. Anyway, doesn't matter at that point. People are saying I'm taking personal shots, I'm sure, down in the comments right now. But anyway,
Mm,
I think, and let's move into our predictions as we previewed that game a little bit right there in terms of, well, actually, Lyle, what's the most important thing Texas Tech has to do against Kansas State to win the football game, in your opinion? Is it the
take care of the
turnover
ball.
battle? Yep,
Yeah,
yep, there we
same
go.
thing.
Yep, yep,
It's
thought so.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think for me, what it is I want to see if they can win in the trenches. I know that that's probably a generic answer, but I want to see if this offensive line that has looked really good in run blocking situations, regardless of who they played this year so far, can they do it against Kansas State? Like, I want to see it. I want
Me
to
too.
see it. That's what I want to see. And obviously, taking care of the football is big, but I mean, we shall see. Lyle, score prediction time, man. Texas Tech right now, if you look at the
Mm,
books, is 1 point favorites. So let's just call it a pick 'em, basically, at this point. The total over under that I saw was 52.5. I do not know if that has changed or not, but while I look that up, what's your score prediction? It sounds like you're going with Kansas State in this one.
I'm gonna go 27. No, I'm gonna go 24-21.
Kansas State?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Over under, by the way, it's 56.5. So if you
You're
listen to
definitely
Lyle,
going under.
you're going under by a lot. I think Texas Tech wins this game. I think that um, I think they figured out how to get right. I think that there's multiple things that they've done at a high rate um, in terms of the last 6 quarters. I think when you look at what Texas Tech has done from the standpoint of this, and Lyle will be back in just a second. I think that really the things that stand out to me for Texas Tech are, again, they're setting the edge, right? And they're really creating havoc when it comes down to impacting the run game. And getting to the passer was great. Steve Linton, 3 sacks. He was the Senior Bowl Player of the Week this past week. But I think when you look at it for me, the thing that's most impressive for Texas Tech, again, these past 6 quarters is they've just not allowed Houston, who wants to run the football, and so does Baylor. Baylor wants to run the football maybe more than anybody in the Big 12, right? With Richard Reese and the other running backs that they have and Dominique Richardson on that roster, right? And they did nothing. Dave Aranda at his press conference before the Texas Tech game said that they wanted to install their will and go out there and really run the football at a high rate, right? Well, they couldn't do that. And so you look at what Texas Tech is bringing defensively, I think that that's going to be key. And when it comes down to it for me, I think Texas Tech just plays better at home. Like whatever that may be, right? Like whatever reason you think that is, whether it's because the comfort of their own bed or not having to travel, this, that, and the other, fans obviously have an impact, whatever it may be. I think for me, Texas Tech just simply plays better at home. And I think that they get this W against Kansas State. Again, Texas Tech is 1 point favorites right now, according to Caesar Sportsbook, with a 56.5 over under. I think Texas Tech covers that. Obviously, they got to, win to do it so. But I think Texas Tech wins in this one. And I think that they do so by the score of 34-26. Again, 34-26. I think Texas Tech beats K-State. Again, If this game was in Manhattan, I'm telling you right now, I am not picking the Red Raiders to win it. But since it is in, hey, like Lubbock, Texas, I'm going to pick Texas Tech to win this game. Lyle had to head out early. Appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in. Again, if you haven't followed Lyle on Twitter, do so at Coach LLEONG over on Twitter. You can follow me at RCMB323 over on Twitter as well. And don't be, shy. Hit that like button and subscribe to the best Texas Tech YouTube channel right now with the most engagement, the fastest growing, and we're giving you daily free videos. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and like the video to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.